patrons get ad-free first access. Hello. Okay, so I'm a day late. I'm in the process of moving house, so my apologies. But here we are, and we are going to look at the collective energies via the tarot this week ahead, July 28th to August 3rd, 4th. And knowing that there's some interesting astrological energies, there's Venus moving in to Cancer, which ultimately, especially with Jupiter in Cancer, is meant to be quite a benevolent energy, getting things that we desire, maybe meeting new people. Of course, it depends where Cancer is in your birth chart, but uh, initially, though, as Venus enters Cancer, there's a square to Neptune and Saturn in Aries. So those could be limitations or blockages or things not quite going to plan. News from people that's triggering something a little bit crunchy for us. So just be aware of that for those first few days, like end of July into the first few days of August. And then I do believe around like August 5th or so, things will start to lighten up and allow us to move forward. So just be aware that there's definitely some positive energy on the horizon, but this week could be just a bit challenging, really. And then I'm thinking to myself about moving, like it's a rainy day as well. So I hope that you're all doing really, really well. Thank you for your messages and your bookings. I do now offer intuitive transit chart readings where I sort of cross-reference with the tarot and look at the transits that are hitting your chart. I do that very intuitively, and clients seem to really resonate with it. So feel free to check out that service. As you know, top tier patrons get 10% discount. So if you don't have that code, feel free to reach out and get that code from me for a 10% discount on readings. But also, if you're interested in doing regular yoga practice with me, feel free to reach out. Divine guidance and loving clarity. This is, again, really specifically for my patrons, but once I publish it, maybe it's for you as well. If you're new here, I'm MJ. Did I welcome you? My name is MJ, and I'm the founder of Alta Love. There's a T-Mill store, so Alta Love collaborates with T-Mill to offer you t-shirts, hoodies, all by my own creative design. And of course, there's the notebook, there's bottles, water bottles, all in alignment with the sustainability, spirituality, and freedom vibratory. And I really do see new paradigm energies being much more collaborative, right? Like small businesses, helping small businesses, people teaming up together to offer brick and mortar businesses as well. I do think I've shared this before, but back in 2019, I spent the summer in Sagres, Portugal, and I was teaching yoga on the rooftop of a cafe. And it was a very new paradigm to me. There was a laundromat, there was like a book exchange. They often did like vintage fairs, and local people would come in and set up shop on a Sunday afternoon. They had evening gigs. Obviously, they did food, coffee, but then they did cocktails in the evening. So it was just a mesh of lots of different businesses coming together to support one another. And it really was a very successful community. The evening gigs were always rocking and busy, and the cafe itself was always busy. The yoga classes were very busy, very international. So divine guidance and loving clarity. So these two cards have popped out. Divine guidance, loving clarity. What are the energies for the week ahead? So there's an energy here, feeling left out in the cold, feeling in despair maybe, or just rejected. The Five of Pentacles, there's a little bit of a difficulty there, not being allowed in, not being seen or received, being excluded. There could be a message coming in a Page of Wands, a younger Aries, Leo, Sagittarius energy. Hey, what's going on? So there's a little message coming in to support. The King of Pentacles is the central energy. So there is an abundance here. There is support here. Let's get a little bit more clarity on that King of Pentacles. So this King of Pentacles, that's indicating Earth sign, Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo. They could be doing a lot of inner work. There's some liberation here coming. I could see it as creative project and physical, creative projects that bring reward. There's something very liberating with the Eight of Swords reverse. So something that we couldn't see before, we can suddenly see. That's often what happens with squares, like things that are hidden come to light. And yeah, it can be a bit of a shock. It can be a revelation, right? So, and ultimately as well, squares are difficult because they're sort of destined to make us make a move, right? Like the squares initially when they come in, they can be uncomfortable. It's like the Tower card, right? Like, and then as we process the shock or we process the trauma or whatever it is, then we're able to make executive choices, right? We're able to move ourselves forward from the information or from the situation that's been unfolding. So there's some inner work happening with this King of Pentacles, and a liberation point is coming in on the horizon here. So at some point this week, we might feel a final shift that helps us move things forward. And this, I mean, there's all the signs except for the cups here, but now I've just pulled the Queen of Cups. So there's something for some of you, you might do emotional work. You might be a therapist or a healer or something of that sort. Or there's somebody from beyond the veil that's kind of looking over the situation, guiding you to move forward in a certain direction. There's definitely a kind of liberation point here that allows you to finally move forward with your nearest and dearest, with the things that you have in your possession, moving forward, being guided forward, allowing the sails to move you, right? And this is after having a like some sort of clarifying breakthrough. Judgment card in the upright with the Eight of Swords reverse. So something mentally is definitely shifting that's allowing you to feel more grounded, more stable, and then just letting the winds take you, letting the current take you, and moving forward in a very guided way. After, perhaps, for some of you, feeling left out in the cold, feeling, I'm hearing like, this isn't working. This isn't working. Whatever is not working, there's like, oh, and then some sort of mental breakthrough that finally allows you to move forward in a very emotionally mature way, in a very grounded way. And again, Queen of Cups could be like an astrologer, a reader, a psychic, right? Where maybe this type of person, or even like a spiritual teacher on some level, is guiding you forward, is guiding in you in this mental liberation. And I'm really seeing it as this King of the King of Pentacle rather. This King of Pentacles central character. So it's somebody doing a lot of inner work, somebody who's been doing a lot of inner work, and that could also be leading you to the breakthrough, being guided by a teacher, a reader, a healer, right? Like, or somebody, you're an ancestor, an angel, right? Somebody from beyond the veil, a feminine, divine feminine type of energy that maybe you're not like seeing directly, or they're not directly in your life, but again, like you employ them or you work with them, or even things like the YouTube and the TikTok, where we find teachers, we find people that are sharing things that deeply resonate with us and allow us to feel finally liberated from past cycles of exclusion or rejection, pain, right? Loss, financial losses, things like this, that then somewhat out of the blue could offer like, oh my God, I couldn't see it like that. I never quite understood it like that. And then finally there's this sense of, oh my God, thank God I can see that for what it is. And now I can set my sails and move forward. So there's a sense of reflection, right? With the King of Sword or the King of Pentacle doing all this inner work, going within, shamanic healing, right? Inner journeying, inner work that helps process these cycles of exclusion. Maybe you get a message from internet, or maybe you get a message from a friend or something like this that then helps clear the path. I do feel like it might, for some of you, be a bit of an aha moment. And there's Hanged Man reverse. There's definitely a sense of being liberated from suspension if we've been feeling stuck. And then the Queen of Wands upright here is like the stuck energy, the refinement energy is now being trumped by like shining brightly. And that's a lot to do with that Leo energy and Mercury retrograding in Leo right now. We could be looking over maybe the ways that we communicate passively, or the ways that we've adapted our thinking and communication styles to be more protective rather than authentic. So we're, being able to express ourselves authentically is such a Leo signature, right? Like trusting your creative inspiration and trusting the way that you communicate so that you can attract and have those similar authentic communications with other as well. So again, holding space for self in those memories and or things of the past, or things that we're just dealing with internally that have us feel rejected, not enough, not good enough. And then doing that inner work to liberate ourselves, to see things more clearly, and to allow ourselves permission to shine, permission to be who we are, right? Shine bright like a diamond. Because she's wearing this like peacock dress, and there's these sort of moths or dragonflies all around her. So there's something quite like stepping onto the stage, right? And that's something on a collective level that we might well continue to see, where there's more like small celebrities, there's more community oriented types of celebrities with people that we resonate, versus the Hollywood, those sort of big celebrities out there that we all are indoctrinated to sort of worship or think that, they're called stars for a reason, and they're typically people that shine to us, that like are attractive in a sort of conventional way. And that the hold, you could say, that that conventional celebrity once had on the collective is definitely breaking down and shifting. So not to say that people won't continue to make entertainment and make really solid good entertainment, but even that as a business is going through radical transformation. So the dark side, the shadow side, the corruption that goes on, that's being shown, and it's sort of demystifying the hold on our psyche that those stars or celebrities or elites, you could even say, once had on us, thinking, I don't know, that they're almost like otherworldly, and realizing that we're all just humans, and that more and more people are kind of looking or seeking out a more authentic and or compassionate perspective in leadership and star quality, right? So we're definitely being guided to move forward in more authenticity, and through that, breaking down structures that sort of create a wall, right? So more, it's like collectively, and the younger generations just craving and desiring more truth, more authenticity, more like, oh yeah, that really resonates with me, and that's what I'm going to focus on, instead of focusing on these people that have everything, or live a certain glamorous, slightly unrelatable life, right? So these messages can come out of the blue. For some of you, they can come through a specific person. The Svadaya, that's an energy of committing to our spiritual practices. And I always want to really make that really broad, and as far as like that doesn't necessarily look like anything really specific. To me, a spiritual practice is a connection to your own divinity, your own aliveness, the alchemy, the feeling, sensing in your body, and then the perceiving of this life that you're in, and the practices, be it walking, be it playing music or dancing or making art or speaking, or the list goes on, as claiming your creatorship as a creative being and allowing yourself via that divine connection, right, in unity with the whole. So that's another really either spiritual perspective or Christed perspective or a quantum perspective of the interconnectivity of all things, including the planets and the stars, and this planet in coordination with those planets and stars, and us being a makeup of this earthly realm, and how we access different dimensions to embody greater wholeness in the physical form, right? Let's just get a few more cards here. Divine guidance, love and clarity. That one. So we really are moving toward a brand new beginning energetically, and a lot of the outer planet shifting. So, last year Pluto went into Aquarius. This year we've got Neptune and Saturn. We had that big retrogradation in Leo and Cancer with Mars last year into this year. And all these sort of retrogrades over certain specific points that the outer planets are moving into. So with Jupiter having gone into Cancer and Uranus moving into Gemini, these big shifting points are indications of our personal and collective moving into new territory, right? Moving into a greater consciousness, moving into like the flame and the air that fans the flame of our inspired vision. And then with Saturn so close with Neptune in there, this is really about allowing our visions to land, and trusting in the divine structures that are coming in for us. And that's a lot to do with just our day-to-day routines and habits. I keep seeing that hummingbird card, and that's a lot to do with our joyful expression, right? With Mercury and Leo retrograding, that's a lot to do with what inspires us, what brings us joy, right? Like, how do we express that joy for ourselves, for one another? And that's something where, all the suffering and all the fearful propaganda and all the lack and all the corruption and distortion and etc., it can be so depressing. It can and heavy. Just the fact that we're expected to work and just to survive, and survive is triggering our nervous system, and it's right. It's reconnecting to a lifestyle and a way of being that serves our personal soul, that serves our personal aliveness, is just so monumental for the liberation of the whole. And of course, the rising of more compassionate, empathic leadership, where our leaders genuinely care about the well-being of all the people, versus this weird system of like externalizing our godliness or externalizing our divinity to outer systems that clearly, whether they were always corrupt or what, but that's this idea of moving out of the Piscean age, moving into the Aquarian age. We're just getting these gentle snippets of the Aquarian age energy, and technology is part of that, but reclamation of our unified consciousness is also a big part of that shift, so that we eventually can be using our technologies responsibly. People talk about timeline splits. I kind of go back and forth with that, as far as you could say a split, but then there's like infinite potentials as well. And this is why kind of astrology is fascinating, because we all have like a very unique individual blueprint, and yet we're all working with very similar systems, again, on the quantum level. We're looking at broader universal truths versus a three-dimensional sort of man-made construct of reality. And that's, the Maya, the dream spell, um, the false matrix, whatever we want to call it, the old paradigm, the patriarchy, right? We can use sort of interweave different words and definitions to understand our evolution as a species. So for some of you, this is really deep. You're doing really, really deep work. Remember, this King of Pentacles is doing the shadow work, is or has been doing the shadow work, dealing with feelings of rejection, lack, not enoughness, right? Recognizing the egoic attachment to either or, right? I am good and or I am bad. I am superior or I am inferior. So an egoic identification is either one of those polarities without integrating the whole, that we're all good and we're all bad and we're all light and we're all dark, but it's our awareness of how we're picking and choosing those aspects, right? And that's a very sovereign thing, that often doesn't require validation, because the validation is the recognition of self. It's seeing oneself. It's knowing thyself, right? So, and again, with this King of Pentacles energy, it's the fact that all this inner work has been cultivating more sensitivity, which then makes me think that there's more psychic energy, like more and more people integrating their wholeness to uncover or excavate their gifts, which can be of like a psychic nature, and then more people leaning in to that construct, right? To the fact that we all kind of have access beyond the three-dimensional, and yet we're still working as a collective to really anchor in these new paradigms, which you could see just over the years and the way that's evolving, as far as like how we all use technology now, how we all connect internationally now, how more and more of us have international businesses because we're working online with a much broader audience, right? So that has a lot to do, and like we have access to information in a way that we didn't do before. So there's a depth to the alchemy that is being held within the generational shifting to better structures that align with nature, earth herself. There again, this a reclaiming and or returning to our connection to the cycles of the planet and the cosmos, and then creating the structures that help to unify or like respect and align with those universal forces. I'm thinking of Eckhart Tolle and his book A New Earth, and how, if I recall correctly, there were ideas in there, or like I remember perhaps there was a point in the book where he talked about how like in the future, there would still be trials and there'd potentially still be people, but the way that we criminalize or like judge people would be a lot more connected to the nuance of empathy and having deeper understanding and being able to rehabilitate people and being able to um, assess in a more, again, compassionate and deep way where and how and why things come to pass. So like judges and jurors and stuff like that would be psychic and empathic, um and thus the way we're evolving beyond the old structures because of that connectivity and empathy, right? I'm getting something else too about, see, the collective shifting is all at once the polarity, like it's the people's consciousness shifting is the same as like the light shining into the darkness, or revealing the shadows, and then that's a natural collapsing of that power. um so like our individual shadow work is all at once reclaiming more of our sort of the body of Christ, or more of that unified, healed perspective, which then naturally just radiates into the field. That's again an understanding of, or again, it's always evolving. It's never like a firm knowing, but like quantum entanglement and understanding the like the miracle code of the quantum reality or unity consciousness, right? That allows us to connect to our bodies and our beings and our thought form and our projections in a much more kind of like tangible, visceral way. That's Neptune with Saturn as well. In Aries, like brand new world, brand new consciousness, brand new visions, ideations, a recognition. Like, most of us, I grew up in the 80s, was born in the 80s. So there's like there's almost like psychic stuff and spiritual stuff was sort of like on the fringes or even ridiculed or woo woo, right? We use these words to describe something we don't understand. And that's part of the shift, is that as we awaken, more and more people are simply just coming into that knowing, and thus having the ability to understand or hold space for those broader realities. And that's what's going to happen quicker and quicker and quicker, because certainly even in my lifetime, and people in this community or my generation would recognize that like that stuff was just brushed off, that stuff was like just mystical and kind of out there, where now it's becoming more of a foundational part of our existence, right? We're working, for some of us in this world, working with millionaires and billionaires, working with like high level executives internationally speaking, who are seeking out those services because they recognize the value in the seers and in the oracles and in the mystics to support them in their role. Which again, for some of us, we work with people that are out there in the news and in the media and working in these sort of higher level, I guess, like power situations, and yet it just is what it is. Like, recognizing that CEOs and again, millionaire, billionaire classes work with astrologers, work with psychics, work with readers who support them on their journey, and certainly would help reflect back dynamics that they too are in. But what I'm witnessing too is that what like attracts like, is that we might be working more with women. We might be working more with change making women, or women in business, or because truly I can see that as well, that women are pushing the needle, right? Like, and I'm looking at it from my personal perspective, certainly, but I see it reflected back where it's in our not too distant historical framework, women have been oppressed. Women have not been allowed to speak. Women have not been allowed to possess things. Women have been more oppressed, just as a very broad general statement, than men. So women finally being able to speak up for themselves and make their own money and start their own companies and have a voice in the collective is pushing the needle and changing the game fundamentally, because it's requiring a complete breakdown of old paradigm structures that are having, one species oppressed by another, and then enough of that oppressed class kind of breaking free and going, enough. We're all human beings. We all feel and think and act, and no longer are we going to abide by passive aggressiveness, or just aggression in general, right? Or bypassing. And that's a lot to do with hiding our shame and hiding our anger, or hiding our grief or our sadness, where we use words or use certain things to try to deny our responsibility. And anyway, that was a bit of a ramble. We're going to leave it there, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. If you're interested in joining the Patreon community, feel free to check that out. You can visit my website, alltolove.com, where you can find the Tmall store. You can buy my book and the online courses. Top tier patrons get access to the Be the Change online courses, as I said earlier, they do get a discount code, so 10% discount on having regular readings. There's some people who, join the patrons and then endeavor to have fairly regular readings or do discounted yoga online with me. So feel free to check all that out, you guys. Thanks for being here. Have a great week ahead, and I'll look forward to seeing you real soon. I might end up doing a broadcast once I'm settled in my new space. Have a wonderful day, you guys, and peace out. Take care.